Hi and welcome to lesson 17 of DMAD's free QGIS course. In today's lesson we're going to look at some more advanced labelling. This might seem a little bit intense, but I've broken it down into really simple steps. We are going to be looking at unicode, but it's something that's really important and just allows us to make our maps completely customisable. So stick with it and good luck. One of the best things about GIS systems and QGIS is that GIS systems are basically infinitely customizable. So today we're going to look at some advanced labels, and we're going to look at labeling the areas that we created in the last couple of lessons. So you'll remember that all we do is we just go to labels and choose single labels, and then we can choose area, for example, and it will give us the area of our potential habitat that we created last week. And that's great, but if you were looking at this map for the first time, it wouldn't be particularly useful. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the attribute table, and if we click edit, first thing we're going to do is just remove a couple of these fields because we have far too many. So I'm just going to remove everything and start again. Okay. Okay, so now everything's removed, and I'm going to open the field calculator, create a new field. This one's just going to be called ID, and under the expression we're just going to write the $sign again and then ID. And you'll notice that the output preview is 0. This is just because QGIS starts its feature ID codes at 0 for some reason. So what we can do is just do ID plus 1, and that will start our IDs here running all the way from 1 down to 100 and whatever it was. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to re-add an area column, and this time instead of a whole number we're going to make it a decimal number because it could be useful just to show a couple of decimal places. So you remember we just did $area, and you can now see that we've got all our IDs and all of our areas. So it's given us the biggest area, so our biggest area is 9.88 kilometers squared. And I can just update our labels to represent this information. So if I go to area again, just click apply and OK, and you can see that now if you look at our data, we've got some more information, and this area here that was representing 0 is now showing 0.01 kilometers squared. So it was only showing 0 because the value was below 1 last time. Okay, excellent. So you know this, I've always shown you that it's easier to see the layers if we have a buffer, so I'm just going to add that buffer now, just to make it easier to read against the different lines. It just means you don't have to worry about any of your labels overlapping with lines. Okay, so now we've got that, we can perhaps look at some more advanced labeling, because as I said, this information doesn't really give us an awful lot to go with. So what we can do is if we go back to our labels, and rather than selecting a value here, we can actually go to this this E button here, and this is just our expression dialog, and it allows us to do a little more than what we could do before. So what we can do is we can just write area this time. Oh, apologies. Area in single quote marks, because that's our text. And we can just say that we want a space, because you'll notice that whatever we type in here is what's represented. So if I do area, then down here in the output it just says area. So we want area and then a space. And then I'm going to use this function here, which is the string concatenation. It sounds terrifying, string concatenation, but it actually just means adding different parts together. And I'm just going to type ID in here. You should actually type it with the double inverted commas. And you can see now it's giving the text string area, and then it's concatenated that with our ID column. So if I press OK now, then if we go onto this, it's got all of our areas, and rather than just being a random number, we've got the text that says area 50, area 30, etc, etc, which is really useful because we know what information we're looking at, but we were interested in the area. So if we go back into label, and we can just edit this a bit more. So go to our expression dialog, which is the epsilon, the E symbol. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to add the concatenate function again, and we're going to add this little \n. And the \n in Unicode means to add a new line. So if I just get rid of this concatenate, you'll see that in our output preview it's now added a new line. Okay, so I'm going to add another concatenate function, and this time we're going to put our actual area, I'm just going to change this to zone so it becomes a little bit less confusing. So we're going to have zones rather than area. So now I've got zone 1, and we're using the column area. Okay, and I'm just going to write this as kilometers squared, and again I'm going to write this in the brackets. Okay, one thing about QGIS and ArcGIS is it's actually really difficult to get superscript symbols. So I might show you that in a later video, but for now we're just going to write kilometers and then an up arrow and squared. Okay. If you think that looks too ugly, it's very obvious what we're talking about if we do this. And we might want a space there as well to make it more obvious. So we can do this, hit apply, and OK. And this is some great information, but if we zoom out a little bit, we get an awful lot of labels. So we've got places like here where we've got some overlapping labels, and we don't really need areas like down here. We've got all this information here where we've got 0 kilometers squared, and that means the piece of land which is our potential zone, so zones 49, 47, 48, 38, 44, etc. These are all less than 10 meters squared because we did it to 2 decimal places. So 1 decimal place would be so 0.1 would be 100 meters squared, and 0.01 would be 10 meters squared. So these are all areas that are less than 10 meters squared. So we might not want to show these on our map, and we can do that on our labeling tools as well. So if we go into this, we can do what's called a conditional statement. So we use this case, and again this looks really scary, so please don't panic because we're going to break it down. So all we're saying is when a condition is equal to something, then do one thing, and then it should really have this else in it as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is move this end statement to the end of our work, because this is obviously the end. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in when area equals 0, then null. Okay, so what I've said here is when our area is equal to 0 kilometers, then we don't want anything to be displayed, so null. Else, so if it's not equal to 0 kilometers, then we want our original expression. Okay, so now if you press OK and we look down here at some of our 0 kilometer zones, click apply, you'll see they've disappeared. So we can use that just to narrow down a few more of our options. Say we were interested in an area which was less than 0.2, we can do exactly the same. So okay, and look at these ones here and here, you'll see that they disappear, just to give us the areas that are bigger than 0.2 kilometers squared. And we could do this for anything, we could do this for any value obviously, so it's just a way to show exactly the information that we want to show, and it just demonstrates just how flexible QGIS is. I hope that's useful, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, thanks, bye.